Welcome to the Save Childhood podcast with Jennifer McCarville. Because childhood has changed, but children have not.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Save Childhood podcast.
I'm Jennifer McCarville.
And I'm Nicole Dugan. And today we are talking about one of my favorite things that I have learned from Jennifer from working with her the past 11 years. Something that helps you as a parent or an educator that I think we don't take time to do enough. And that is looking for, as you call it, the thing before the thing. Finding out the thing before the thing.
Right.
And it's so important. So tell us more. What do you mean by that?
So we use this term when something has happened, and what we know is children are made good. And so when there are big behaviors or physical reactions or anything that we think, what caused that? Like, you know, we have to figure out the thing before the thing. So when I started working in the field, it was very much the child who is the loudest or reactive is the victim. And so immediately you have two children standing next to each other. One child starts screaming, it's the other one's fault.
Right.
And whatever happened, it's the other one's fault. And that's actually very rarely true because children don't just go around hurting each other for no reason. Now, when they're toddlers, there's a lot of like pushing and grabbing and mine, and that's so healthy and so normal because what they're figuring out is their autonomy and they're learning to be a little less egocentric as time goes on. But what they're doing is protecting themselves, and they just don't understand that just because it's here doesn't mean it's mine. You know, there's a toddler mantra that has gone around that's like, if I see it, it's mine. If I played with it yesterday, it's mine. If I looked at it, it's mine. If you have it and I want it, it's mine. And that is how toddlers think. And so, yes, in that area of development, there might not really be a clear motivator, but there usually always is in every area of development, a thing before the thing that caused that behavior. So our job is to find out what happened to motivate that.
Right. So the reason why this is my favorite is because I think so often as a parent or as an educator, Johnny hit me. Mm-hmm. Johnny, stop hitting.
Right.
Well, what we need to find out is why did Johnny hit you? Yeah. So tell us how we should go about doing that.
Okay. So the number one thing that you have to do is realize and believe and know that children are made good. And that even if Johnny did it, he had a reason. I mean, almost always something happened beforehand. Again, like we talked about, the thing before the thing. So the way you go about figuring that out is approaching them with kindness, respect, and an open mind. Like, oh my goodness, you're hurt because he pushed you down the slide. Make sure they're okay, you know, and then tell me what happened. And you really listen to that child. And then you listen to Johnny. And then you go from there and figure out. Your job at that point is to, you know, be the detective. We've talked about that. Figure out what to do next and how to help them through those big feelings. Mm-hmm. But like I said, children don't just go out hurting other children for no reason. Right. So, you know, some child might get pushed down the slide and then they go over and hit the child who pushed them. Maybe you didn't see the push, you know, but you didn't see what happened. You just see the one who slid down come up and hit someone. Well, the thing that motivated that behavior was a perceived or an actual wrong done to the child. Mm-hmm. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Or even words.
Absolutely words. It's not always physical. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it could have happened yesterday or it could have happened, you know, a week ago. Mm-hmm. So.
And that doesn't excuse Johnny's hitting or physical things, but it also.
It explains it.
It explains it. And it's also it's not a bigger problem than unkind words either. It all is a part of
figuring it out. Yes. And you always are going to have people who are going to be more verbally responsive, people who are going to be more physically responsive. Sometimes people are physically responsive, children and adults, when they don't have the language. You know, or adults usually tend to yell and lose their cool when they don't have the emotional intelligence to work through something and see someone else's perspective, or they're upset about something completely unrelated to what's actually going on. And I mean, and these skills are great for, like you said, adults too. Friendships, marriages, any kind of relationship. When someone's behavior seems surprising to you, once you learn the ability and develop the skill to say, what's motivating that behavior, Is it me? Is it that they had a bad day at work and they're just trying to like decompress from that and they weren't ready to transition into, whatever's happening in the household or, and what would be so beneficial as adults is if we would say, I'm sorry, I had a really bad day. I'm really grumpy right now. I need a little time. You can't always do that either. So you got to figure out what really is going on and how we can help each other.
My favorite thing about finding out the thing before the thing is the way that the teacher or the parent walks them through that. Then you're giving them language to put in their pocket to use later on in future situations,
whatever.
And you're helping them process it and learn from it. And so, yes, you are getting to the thing before the thing in this one situation, but you're also helping them have those resources and tools later on.
Absolutely. And one thing we have to remember is that in those moments of upset and conflict, that's really not the time for the big lesson. That's the time for the experience of sharing and being heard and resolving the one issue right there. It's not the time for, a big explanation or conversation about, how would you feel if that happened to you? Those things are important outside of the tough times. Those conversations, which come through things like fables and fairy tales and those kinds of stories that support that growth and understanding, that moral understanding and that emotional intelligence so well. So it's important, but in the time of conflict, you need to deal with what's happening and you need to make sure everyone is heard, because it is always the thing before the thing that you think is the thing, and then it's usually the thing before that.
Right.
And so you can't stop until you're sure. Don't assume ill intent from anyone. And really, when you get down to it, there's very rarely even ill intent. It's a need to get what we need, no matter how old we are. And that's the thing, like we can mature through that and we can learn emotional intelligence and we can learn to wait, self-regulate. We can learn delayed gratification. We can learn all of those things. But even then, a lot of times we're having to remind ourselves this really is okay. Because we're all wired to protect ourselves. Look out for number one. And while that's not healthy in a society, we have to look out for one another. And we do learn that. I mean, this in meetings or when you're, getting an announcement or you get something in the mail that, your prescription provider is changing. Your number one thing is, how's that going to affect me? And right. No matter what it is. I mean, I can't tell you, I've in so many meetings that I've been in with our staff, and they're wonderful, amazing, incredible people, right? But if I say something's going to change, number one, how's this going to affect me? And it's not even how's it going to affect my classroom first. It's what's it going to require of me? What's it going to take away from me? What's it going to give me? It's human nature.
Right.
And so, but when children do that, they're under a microscope. And so we immediately start judging, criticizing, and we actually overreact a lot. So another one of our really popular and effective sayings around here is breathe and underreact. So breathe and underreact. Make sure that if anybody's physically hurt, that everybody involved helps make that right. Let's go get some ice. When you did that, it hurt him. And then listen to everybody, figure out what happened so you can help the children make sense of that.
Yeah, on the few occasions where I have assumed that I already knew what happened, big mistake. Every time there's something, an important piece that I didn't know, that I missed.
And you know why I am so passionate about sharing this with people is because it's happened to me.
Yeah.
A lot. And it's so true. And it's actually very simple. We tend to make things so hard. It's actually very simple. You need to just breathe, underreact, and you need to figure out what happened. And it's so true too. If teachers forget to do that piece and they come to me with, oh my goodness, this child has these behaviors, this happened today, blah, blah, blah. And I say, what happened before that? They're like, oh gosh, I didn't do the work. And that's the job.
Right. And as we're talking about this, I'm thinking, what an amazing environment for a child to grow up in or be a part of on a lot of hours a day, where they're, even when a conflict arises, they do feel seen and heard and get to share their side of what happened.
Right. And it's tricky, because the thing you also have to know is that just because it makes sense doesn't mean it's okay. Right. So seen and heard, but there are consequences and there are boundaries and there are, there's a lot of, in fact, I was just reading an article the other day about how people are moving away from gentle parenting. I'm like, well, anytime you have an extreme approach to anything, you're going to have a problem. It's not going to sustain long term. Right. But gentle parenting, I believe, from the little I know about it, I'm not really an expert in gentle parenting, but parenting, like how we parent children and respond to them. I think in some ways, gentle parenting has gotten a really bad reputation and has been taken way out of context, in my understanding. I think that for my understanding of gentle parenting, it means listening, understanding development, and responding accordingly. Now, sometimes the answer is no, and it needs to be. And children need to learn to deal with disappointment, right? We all need to learn that the world is not all about us, but that's a slow, gentle, it should be a gentle process. You're not going to do that. You're not going to teach children that any earlier than they're ready to learn it. My understanding and definition.
Right.
But it's unfortunate that an approach to parenting that respects development and teaching, that respects development and understands how children are made and speaks from those places, would be considered too gentle. Boundaries are important. No's are important.
So what you're saying is you take the time to get to the thing before the thing. Both children get to share what happened, and from their point of view, they feel seen, but that doesn't make the behaviors or the incident okay. There still are boundaries and consequences in place.
Absolutely. But, you're not going to fuel that high energy, that stressful energy that's there in those moments, So yeah, it's just really about understanding what motivated the problem and getting to the core and dealing with that. Because if you don't, then you are perpetuating behaviors that become sneaky.
Okay.
They don't understand how to get what they need or their needs met, and they know they won't be heard, so they do what they're going to do, and then they immediately deny it. They don't know how to deal with, their choices, their behaviors, their reactions to things. They hide from you, they get sneaky about it, they lie. All of those things are protective mechanisms for human beings to avoid trouble. I don't know. I know a lot of people, as soon as you're driving down the road and as soon as you see the police lights behind you, you think, oh gosh, what did I do? What did I do wrong? We immediately know when we've done something wrong. That starts at a very young age. There's just, God put something in us, a beautiful thing to guide us to say, whoa, that's not the right way to do things. And we all know what that is. So, we call it the conscience, the Holy Spirit, depending on what your beliefs are, but we have that in us because we're made good. And so you immediately know, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that. Children know that you can see it in their faces. If you become about understanding them instead of about fixing them or punishing them, and you respond accordingly to the understanding, you're going to help them learn the skills they need to learn to be successful human beings in society. So it's really, really valuable, the thing before the thing.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. So
I'm so glad.
Thanks for sharing that with us today. And if you have any questions or comments or wondering more about that, comment below. Keep the conversation going on Facebook, Instagram,
online. Oh, we're also YouTube, for the
TikTok.
podcast. Yeah, and then you can check out the 14 tenets on savechildhood.org, our website. So we would love to hear from you. Also, we are holding our second annual Save Childhood Conference this coming fall in November of 2025. So check that out on the savechildhood.org website as well. We would love for you to come.
It's amazing.
Visit the school, learn lots of really valuable things that are applicable that you can take back to your own schools. And
so subscribe. Our podcast launches every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And again, on YouTube, you can watch us in person. But thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks so much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. To learn more and join the movement, go to savechildhood.org.